Hi, I'm Ken Chow, and this is a Marketing Buddy production. Today, we're tackling the topic of content marketing, specifically, how we can create effective content by matching it to our prospect's buying cycle. We're going to describe a model for the B2B buying cycle, examine how prospects move through it and what role marketing content plays, and we'll take a look at the different types of content that work effectively at each stage. What is content marketing? Or, to put it another way, what isn't content marketing? To me, it's yet another in a series of labels we put on things in the hopes of understanding and controlling them, which is, after all, kind of in the marketer's DNA. Content marketing, interactive marketing, search marketing, digital marketing, social marketing, cloud marketing. Let's face it, we are label-crazy people. I mean, I get it. Distinctly apart from something like search marketing, the notion of content marketing is supposed to focus us on regularly publishing things so compelling that customers are drawn to us, and in doing this, we're given more control in reaching and influencing our target audience. But when has content not played this role? I'm not even sure what the alternative to content marketing would be. Content-free marketing? Spiritual marketing? At the end of every search, every ad, every show, every email, there's always been the delivery of content, and the burden has always been on marketing to continually create it. It's always been about content marketing, but at least now we've given it its own label. A lot of the discussions I've seen around content marketing concern how we need more videos or more demos or more infographics and so forth. It's kind of a flavor of the month topic, and in many cases neglects the fact that there's no single right type of content. The same content doesn't work on all prospects because not only are prospects different from each other, but they're also in different places in the buying cycle. Let's talk about that. Let's start off with a little history. Since the beginning of commerce, people have been studying how other people buy things. Whether it was guilders for tulips, shekels for goats, or spear points for mastodon meat, traders on either side of the equation wanted to better understand what their counterpart was thinking. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the explosion in media, sound familiar, made selling and advertising a serious area of study and innovation. Let me tell you about a guy named Elias St. Elmo Lewis. Now, if that doesn't look like a guy who's serious about studying advertising, I don't know who does. Elias was a man obsessed with his craft. He was the first one to truly codify a logical process through which people respond to advertising. You may have heard of his model, AIDA. It stands for Attract Attention, Maintain Interest, Create Desire, and Get Action. His idea was that these merging mental states of mind drive people towards a particular buying decision. It's his lasting contribution to our profession. Various forms of his theories were later expanded upon and evolved during the golden age of advertising in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and these same principles have profound parallels within the business-to-business buying environment that we work in today. That's because human nature has changed very little, although our technologies have shifted the balance of power quite a bit, such as the web. The web has, in essence, created a buying engine that allows these cognitive processes to take place in a way in which the customer controls the time, the place, and the choice of content, pop-up ads notwithstanding. And although that technology now means that buyers can peruse information in depth and at their leisure, it also means that they first have to sift quickly through vast oceans of content. In this short attention span world, what happens before sales engages must now work better than ever to gain the customer's attention and keep it. And that's why content marketing has become so critical. This shift in the balance of power means we no longer have anything close to captive audiences. We need to deliver, to publish, things that'll rouse our prospects from their content overload stupor and make them interested in us. So let's take a chapter from Elias St. Elmo Lewis's book and see how it can help us today. So, as marketers, it is our job to compel the prospects to move along that cognitive pathway, from being aware that they have a need or desire to parting with money to satisfy it, the buying cycle. Let's start by looking at a basic model of the mental states our prospects go through. Early stage, attention and interest. People become aware of something at the right time that they find interesting or that affects their job or their company, either positively or negatively. They probably start doing some early basic research, online, asking colleagues, and so forth. Middle stage, understanding and belief. They then spend the time to more fully understand the thing that interests them, including how specific solutions work and what the estimated costs might be, and they develop opinions about those specific approaches, solutions, and vendors. Late stage, desire and action. They envision themselves benefiting from buying the product. They establish a firm handle on pricing and budget and a basic plan to acquire it, and then they act. Now that we have a model for what our prospects are going through, let's take a closer look at each stage to find out what we have to do to help drive the prospect through it. What messages our content has to convey, the key characteristics of effective content, and we'll take a look at some examples. Early stage, attention and interest. This is the hardest content challenge, and here's why. At this point, our target audience may not be actively seeking any information on products like ours. In fact, they may not even be aware that they have a problem or that a viable solution exists. What's more, as we mentioned earlier, they're already being bombarded by content, so they tend to ignore most of what they see that doesn't immediately capture their interest. So the big challenge at the early stage is to interrupt prospects and engage them, to cut through the content overload with messaging and presentation that makes us interesting to the right people, and that means talking about them, not us. Oddly, a lot of marketing efforts lead with the detailed technical stuff, the how we do X, but that's not going to affect anyone who doesn't realize, and quickly, that you understand and can fix their problems. I get angry looks when I say this when working with some marketing teams, but at this stage, nobody wants to hear about your product, at least not right off the bat. They don't. Here's what I mean by that. They first want to hear about their problems, their careers, their industry, their competitors, their culture, what they think is funny or smart or righteous, anything but your product, until they know what you can do for them and why they should care. The problem and the benefits. So we need to keep our focus on that. And we shouldn't try to tell our entire story up front. If we get their attention and show them that we understand their problems, we'll get that chance next. We have to force ourselves to follow an economy of information, just enough to lead them to the next stage. So, given what our prospects are thinking, here's what our content has to convey. We understand you. We get your needs, problems, and desires. We can help. Our company addresses your needs, problems, and desires. We're special. We deliver specific, valuable benefits in a unique way. Here's the next thing you should know. That is, content for the next stage. And here are the key characteristics our content should have. It should be visually interesting. We have to be noticed first. Brief. Remember, this is short attention span theater. Entertaining, because hey, the day is long and a little chuckle would be nice. Valuable. It has to help them in some way. Relevant. We didn't interrupt them for nothing. If you yell fire and when they come running out of the building you explain that what you meant was that you have delicious soft pretzels, you're going to make a lot of enemies quickly. Examples of effective early stage content include short videos and animations, white papers because they often introduce problems and solutions, very short demos of some killer benefit of your product, games, fun, surveys, interesting, contests, fun, infographics, interesting, and even customer announcements when they're competitors of your prospects. By the way, without effective content at this stage, your pipeline is going to be limited to the search efforts of people who are already doing active research, therefore people who are already developing opinions about what they want. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, other than the fact that every one of your competitors is going to be vying for the same search terms and making all the same claims about their product. So if at all possible, get an advantage in the early stage. Middle stage, understanding and belief. Now, once a prospect is aware that they have a problem, that you understand it, and that you deliver specific valuable benefits in a unique way, they now have to understand your basic claim for how you solve their problem, and then they have to actually believe it. A detailed understanding is especially critical for sales to technical decision makers whose world is full of how. They need to see that your approach makes sense to their view of the world. It's also important to technically back up your claims of differentiation. You have to show precisely how you're different and better. So at this stage, people want hard answers. This isn't the time to be mysterious. You need to cover the technical details of your offering that affect them and explain in detail how you're different and better. If it's at all possible, you should also give your prospects some way to actually see the product being used before they volunteer themselves for the "I'm going to get a call from a sales rep" list. Again, many technical buyers really want to see the how, but are loath to engage sales directly before they actually see for themselves what it is you have. And just because they followed your explanation doesn't mean they find your claims credible. That's why it's so important to provide examples of companies and people just like them who have gotten the benefits of your product. Here's what we need to convey at this stage. Here's exactly how our solution works. Here's why it's different and superior. Here's how it has already worked for people just like you. And here's the next thing you should know. Here are the key characteristics the content should have. Informative. Give them information they can use in their environment, things relevant to the product living with them. Clear. Don't use platitudes, use plain English and clear visuals. Concise. Stay clear and focused on the important stuff. Don't overload them. Differentiating. Technically justify your claims of superiority. Validating. Let them hear from others like themselves, same title, industry, and size. Here are some types of content that can fit this stage: detailed demos, custom demos, case studies, testimonials, white papers featuring companies that are just like theirs, workshops, webinars, competitor comparisons, ROI calculators, and of course, trials. Many marketing teams do a great job of cranking this stuff out. The problem is that many marketing teams do a great job of cranking this stuff out. It's easy to get lost in the shuffle. Not to put too fine a point on it, but that's one of the reasons that the early stage content is so important, because it creates not only the awareness, but gives an opportunity to serve up the next stage of content. Late stage, desire and action. Now our prospects have to be able to visualize the outcome, weigh the costs, and have an easy, non-threatening way to act. When we say visualize the outcome, we mean that they actually have to literally envision themselves using and benefiting from the product. That's why there are mirrors in department stores. We all want to visualize what the outcome of our decisions will be, whether it's an actual trial of the product or some simulation or mock-up. Everything we can do to help them create this image will help. Also, most buyers really want to have a specific idea of your pricing and/or pricing model at this point before they talk to sales. B2B buyers need to make practical decisions based on established budgets or ranges. If you've done a good job of building value, then pricing, if it fits their budget, can be a very powerful motivator. Of course, for a few companies, pricing is a leading feature and may even belong in an earlier stage, the middle, or even the very first. Now, I realize that some firms, particularly those with higher price solutions, are loath to reveal anything about their pricing until the very end. And I don't think it's any secret that most buyers hate that. So if it's at all compatible with your go-to-market strategy, it may be best to let people qualify themselves in or out based on costs, even rough ranges, as soon as you've built value in their minds. As we mentioned earlier, at this point, we have to give prospects a simple, immediate, non-threatening way of engaging with our sales channel. They need to feel that they can have a dialogue with us without getting the third degree. Think about how most people feel when they're at the car dealership and a salesperson begins to stroll over. We also don't want to miss the window when the prospect has just gone past the tipping point from interest to desire, because those moods can come and go. Don't let them go. If we can have some immediate way to have a dialogue with prospects, that's ideal. Have you ever had to wait for a vendor to contact you? Did your desire go up while you were waiting? Probably not. So at the late stage, here's what our content needs to convey. Here are your specific benefits. Here's what the costs are. Here's an immediate, hassle-free way of engaging with us to get it. And here are the key characteristics of late-stage content. Shows the customer-specific benefits, immediately actionable, non-threatening. Here are some types of content that can fit this stage: trials, pricing, even ranges, quote builder forms, configuration forms, contact forms, online chat, case studies on which to model their own implementation, testimonials from customers who have the same configuration, and so forth. So, to summarize, prospects can engage when they're at different stages of the buying cycle. For that reason, you need to make sure that your content matches where they are, and always be offering the next stage of content when presenting that one. In addition, some content might be useful at more than one stage, like case studies, or might work to move prospects across multiple stages. The important thing is to focus on what the prospect is thinking and wants to see. Most of us are justifiably proud of the companies we work for, and it's all too easy to want to tell everything there is to know about it. But the first goal is to let the prospect know that you understand them, to build up a level of credibility and trust that lets you make your entire case as they move through the buying cycle. Well, I hope you found today's lesson useful. If you have, please share it with your colleagues. The content examples I've listed are just a few of the ways that creative marketers like you have used to drive prospects along the buying cycle. More are being invented every day. If you have some that you feel have worked out well, I'd love to hear about them, and maybe even share them on this series.